OpenAI recently announced their latest O3 model,
Hmm.
and essentially it's the smarter version of the O1 model, which recently came out. And it's kind of step closer to this concept of AGI, which is like autonomous agent who can reason about anything. And the O3 model is really smart, and that's coming in 2025. Wanted to take a moment to talk about, is AI becoming so smart going to take our jobs?
It's a big question right now.
Uh, if you have any time to look at the results or what it's capable of, it's becoming really good. It's like
Hmm.
as competitive as some of the smartest like software engineers test that it's able to pass on its own. Like it basically this reasoning capability,
Hmm.
ability to reason about is becoming so good that it's still expensive, but the capability is there. And maybe even if it's expensive, it might still be cheaper than hiring a human. And obviously that affects us because I'm a business technical consultant. I created Brancher AI with 200,000 users, so I'm in the software field. And by the way, my name is Elisha Trada, and
I'm Leah Tarada. We are married. I do social media marketing for businesses and brands. I've worked with over 30 businesses and brands, and I've created over 200 long form videos and 300 short form videos.
yeah, and AI is affecting both of our
Hmm.
the trade
Oh,
or
yeah,
business,
video
right?
content creation for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's obvious when you look at like okay, maybe physical jobs like nursing and all that's probably pretty safe for next probably 20, 30 years. But anything that's like a knowledge work jobs, even multimedia content like a video content is no longer like a safe, as in like AI can now start to do a lot of things,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So I kind of want to talk about how AI is going to affect our jobs in 2025, and that's more short term, immediate. And then we can also discuss how is it going to look like in the 5 years. Let's start with the present,
Yep.
2025. How do we think AI is going to affect us? And it could be positive impact, it could be a negative impact, but maybe let's start with multimedia because I think AI is becoming really good at generating images, and also the video content is kind of coming up and coming. I don't know if you had a chance to see the new Sora video creation, and Google just announced what they call Bio, which is able
Mm-hmm.
to it's kind of crazy because up until now the video generated in the past,
Yeah.
like it looks right, like maybe things move right, but the physics did not make sense. Like let's say I ride on a car and then or skateboard, right? And if I jump on the skateboard, my body and the skateboard should go along with it and then lands on the ground, right? That was something that didn't work in the past.
Oh,
But
right.
recent models are becoming good. They understand the physics of how objects
Mm.
interact with each other.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more real. How do you see this impact your industry as a content creator for social media posts, and that includes videos and images?
More and more people are expecting there to be AI content out there in general on social media. And I think what helps with a lot is the content creation process in terms of if you already have a concept or idea, let's say you do kind of the initial rollout of a new content creation strategy or campaign for a business or brand, right? You still want to conceptualize like what that campaign and brand, the visuals will look like for that. But then after that, you know, but there's budget constraints, time constraints. It can just be really difficult to get people in the same studio to film like a product,
Mm,
in
mhm.
different lights, different backgrounds, or go to locations that can be very expensive to shoot, very time consuming. With AI coming in, I think subsequent parts after, you want to do like a special seasonal, maybe a Valentine's Day shoot or something with the products. A lot of businesses are using AI to generate the backgrounds or overlay the products like in a specific, maybe hearts or something for like Valentine's Day type of background instead of like having to rent out a studio or scout a location, pay
Mhm.
for all of that. So I think it is being used in a lot of content, paid ads, kind of in that realm right now just to make it easier to do ads and promotions.
Yeah, I think you touched on three different things I kind of want to
Mhm.
go through. You mentioned conceptualizing,
Yeah.
which I think AI is already, I would assume, used to conceptualize, right? Because it used to
Yep.
be maybe you had to verbally explain like what it would look like to clients.
Mhm.
But now you can just use AI to just say like, oh yeah, this is how it's going to look like. But you might still need to record it with actual assets or something. But like,
Mhm.
imagine the flower in the scene with your products on it. Like you can just now generate
You
to
right.
just conceptualize, and it might even be usable
Mhm.
for real content, right? Then you also mentioned the general content's budget constraint. It is difficult for brands to afford because how big of a brand do you work with, or how often do you run into the budget constraints when working with the brands?
For social media marketing,
Yeah,
a lot of the time, they're always looking for a way. I think businesses are always looking for a way to maximize results, right? With a lower budget, not having to, if going to a forest is going to be expensive and they're not going to get that many more views or conversions out of that.
yeah,
Also, how do you quantify that? It's not easy, right? But if AI can do a close enough job, then I think a lot of businesses and brands will just use AI to generate a forest. And now you can even with like runway ML, for example, like create like a forest scene and then, eh, you know, basically lay on top your product. Maybe even like lay on top like a movie or video of your product. And then that can be used in a social media campaign.
yeah. Because like even some of these scenes that you see on the commercials are now we all know that it's kind of either CGI generated anyway. Even the products are actually 3D models rendered, not actual products, even in a commercial setting. Or that I know that now they use like a really high fidelity screen that literally show the forest in the background as the
Oh.
actors are standing in front of it, right? So it's not even real
Mhm.
anyway. So like why can't AI just replace? I think the budget part is actually interesting because I started out asking the question of is AI going to maybe like take away our jobs, our functions of our job? With the budget constraints, it's more like AI is actually enabling you to do content creation that were not even possible before because
Mhm.
client didn't have money.
Mhm.
So you actually created more creative outlet options. Would you say that's true or like,
Yeah. To be able to see how your idea will probably save you money too in the long run. Instead of following through with a concept that ultimately isn't going to get you the results that you were looking for, or it didn't turn out how you wanted it to be. I think where people are concerned though is, well, if we don't have to rent out a studio, well, now people who own the studio, business that owns the studio, they don't get money. And then if you're hiring like makeup artists for like actors to do because now like you can use runway, you can generate a person to almost be like an avatar, and I think Hey Jen is like that too, right? Like you can have an avatar.
to close? Yeah, I think it's still not
Hmm.
quite there. I think you can
Yeah.
still tell the
Okay,
difference.
that is
Yeah.
AI, but now like we're using AI to also be kind of the influencers, right? The
Yeah.
digital influencers. Then it's like, okay, well now people who are influence actual people, they're out of that job that an
Mhm.
AI is being replaced with. So I think people are really concerned about their jobs being taken away or cutting jobs because AI can now just instead of like hiring a crew to go to the forest, now they're out of jobs because you don't need to go to an actual forest. You're just using AI to generate the forest scene.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe for you and your client, it's actually a good positive impact.
Mhm.
But maybe the people who have a job where you would otherwise have to work with
Mhm.
are maybe losing some of those jobs or
Losing work.
opportunities of work, right? Yeah.
Right.
Which is interesting because I would almost argue that because client probably didn't even have for the clients who doesn't even have a budget to even hire people and go to a forest with the crew members,
Mhm.
probably didn't matter anyway
Mm.
because they weren't gonna get clients like maybe only high budget clients can afford that. But small time brands, they're not gonna have like $50,000 to spend on a budget to, rent out all the gears. That even itself could be like, minimum couple thousand to 10,000.
Mhm.
Hire people, hire actors, makeup artists. That's like 50,000 or more. I think when you want to record like a music videos, even for independent artists, it could easily be a like 50K to
Mhm.
100K. Even if you hire friends to help, I think it still costs money,
Yeah.
right?
There's a liability too,
Yeah,
right?
and some of the clients you work with, they weren't gonna even have budget for that anyway. So for that, it opened up more opportunities to do more with the low budget, and it's not necessarily like your job is taken away. They actually let you do more with the low
Mm.
budget, right?
It's enabling the client to do more,
Yeah.
right, with a limited budget.
Yeah,
I think it's the industries that they work with where it can be kinda iffy, right?
and I think in the past, if you spend like let's say 50K in production cost and then put out some commercial, it was probably a good money spent
Mhm.
because not many people can compete with that level of the budget. But today, a lot of the UGC content creators using the green background, like
The green
the
screen.
green screen, to just record some like very amateur content, gets like 1 million views. It almost makes the brands probably feel like, why am I spending like 50K on this like commercial thing when I can
Mhm.
just pay $1,000 to these UGC content creators to do this low quality thing, but get some attention, right?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think the budgets are like shifting more to hiring someone else to do the content? And this is kind of interesting because we were talking about AI creating content, but there's also like other people creating content for you is
Mhm.
also probably a outlet that you can choose.
Yeah, businesses are definitely using UGC content creators, right, to create more, like, authentic content for them, how the product is used by normal people. And I'm sure they use, like, either AI tools, like, as a green screen, like, for
Or
example,
like editing
or yeah,
stuff
or
or
for editing
yeah.
to make it easier, so I think it is definitely enabling, like, a faster process for sure for those content creators, right.
So in a sense, it created a job for like a content creator
Mhm.
market while it reduced maybe jobs for like a traditional commercial
Yeah.
creation. Like overall, do you think AI has been a good have a positive impact in your industry, or do you think overall negative impact? Like as a social media content creator.
Think it goes there's some interesting points I think that have come up because of AI. I think AI is enabling, for example, the conceptualization at the beginning makes it a lot easier to see what a campaign will play out as if we decide to create this type of content, what that's going to look like and mock it up maybe for leadership to see what that looks like a lot easier, right? And then maybe you don't waste money
Mm,
on something that's not gonna work. So I think it helps with that. And then for regular content creation, especially with AI editing tools, like it definitely makes it faster and more efficient. And I think the hope is like with the time saved, energy saved, and be able to create more content that it'll help the business grow there will be more opportunities they'll be able to offer other businesses. I think the dark side of AI, though, is that because of AI being used so pervasively in content creation across different platforms, one, there's, like, a lot of, like, fake content out there,
Mm,
especially on Facebook, and I think the unfortunate victims of that fake content are more like the boomer generation, the
older
baby boomer,
generation.
because
Yeah.
they can't really tell the difference, or maybe they,
I mean, they couldn't tell the difference between the fake the window like pop
Mhm.
up where it looks like oh click here to close, but it's an ad, right? So
Uh
they can click on it. I know like my mom would just click on those banners like click here to close or click here to like virus detected,
Mhm.
click here to like recover from the virus, and my
Mhm.
mom couldn't tell the difference.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a concern, and Facebook has a lot of
Yeah.
like fake, misleading, story driven posts. Who knows how true they are with AI generated images that is probably obvious to millennials and Gen Z, but
Yeah.
less so to an older generation.
Yeah. I actually want to hear if anybody is watching have some personal story they want to share. Like maybe fake content has affected like you or like your parents or somebody you know. Please leave it in a comment. We want to hear your personal stories.
And maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
make sure you subscribe so if we
and
talk about it, you'll be there.
like the content as well. So yeah, we're doing this type of content regularly. So make sure to follow us for the future content. But yeah, going back to the dark side, yeah, it's really scary. I'm more scary because of my parents and like other older generations. I
Mm,
think younger generations, I think probably millennials and down, like we grew up with internet access while we're still like young. So I think we can tell the difference. But yeah,
right.
fake content. So yeah, so you're saying that the positive impact being some cost savings, a more creative thing you can do. But the dark side is if there's a bad actors who's using the same technology in the social media context, spreading like fake news or misinformation.
And I think there's a flood of just too much content now because AI makes it so easy that there's a flood of like very poor content. Poor content in the sense of like it's fake or not very good. But I think that's also though what is highlighting and making either like authentic storytelling, real stories, and going back to actual, like now it's almost more valuable when something is, like, truly produced in
Mm-hmm.
the real world because there's so much AI content, and we also want more realness because of all the AI generated content. For example, Coca-Cola, their commercial that where they recreated an old commercial, but in, like, in a modern way. They did it completely with AI, and there was a lot of backlash. A lot of people were like, "Why did they use AI to generate" for example, like, the real people in it too,
Mm.
right? That just seems so counterintuitive to
Did it look fake?
creating it was really good,
Okay.
and maybe if you looked really closely, you could see the fakeness, but I mean, Coco has, like, probably a huge budget, right, for it, so
Yeah,
maybe
they
they were
probably
able to make
reviewed
it
and fixed it. Yeah.
realistic. But I think the fact that people even knew it was AI generated, it lost that kinda Christmas spirit, that human connection that we're like, "Oh, we feel moved by people," but they're actually not people because
Mm.
how do we feel moved by something that's not us? That doesn't have the same that doesn't have emotion or
It's
feelings.
interesting. Do you think it's because of the Christmas spirit or because of the brand association with the Coca-Cola where they always feature people and it's about real connection with people with the Coca-Cola?
Right, and then they try to use AI to,
Yeah.
generate that
Yeah.
same connection, but it's not the same. I think that's a big factor of it. And if, like, you have, let's say, like, a cryptocurrency, I don't know, whose business or whatever, yeah, use AI, people probably don't care. They probably already
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's not about creating, like, a human connection, but yeah, Coca-Cola is founded pretty much on, like, having a drink together, and enjoying these good times together. But how does AI do that? They're not real people. And so, the fact that they went down that route was like a very big, people just didn't, it didn't vibe with people in general. But I mean, they're a really big company, so maybe it doesn't really impact their bottom line in the end. But it's just weird, I think, a weird choice to recreate something very human, like about togetherness, especially in the holiday time,
Mm.
but just using AI for that.
Yeah, I think what's difficult is if you build your brand on top of certain imagery, like building real connection, it is difficult to suddenly start to shift to be something else. It's not so much that like you said, AI, it's not like AI content is bad. It's just that if it's off of your brand theme, then it might not make sense. Maybe they should
Mhm.
have hired the actual actors and CGI animators to
Even
actually do it.
I was gonna say, like, suggestion, if they even just heavily CGI'd the background, but had human actors
Yeah,
to
yeah,
actually facilitate, human connection, the
yeah.
interactions and emotions, that would've been much better.
Oh,
But
so
they just
background could be AI generated,
yeah,
but
and
use a
I
human.
think people are
Yeah,
used to that. Like, how
yeah,
many superhero movies do we see that happen
yeah.
in
It's all fake.
space,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, it's a green screen pretty much. I think we're used to that, and we're watching that for the fantasy,
yeah,
right? But it's also stories too, which AI, you can't really replace a human
yeah.
with that.
Okay, so circling back to the original, I guess, discussion point of is AI, you know, going to have an impact on our job? And I know we mainly talked about how it affects the social media content. But for you, what's your like general take on AI's impact for your job? Like, are you afraid of it, or do you feel like you're empowered by it, or like any something in middle?
My specialty, I would say, is really bringing out the stories behind brands and businesses. I think AI is enabling us to share the story either more efficiently or faster through the tools or through processes, and helping with some of those constraints that traditionally businesses
Mm, the
have.
budget and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I think where I'll continue probably to help businesses shine, or like at least like I feel like where I'll shine more is I love telling authentic stories and tell what really is unique behind a brand. And I don't think that's something that AI can completely replace, because there needs to be a relatable factor to that. And AI isn't like human. And so I don't think we can use it to replace humans or even animals. Maybe if it's a funny video, then that's fine.
Just a
But
funny video. Yeah.
yeah, but I think it'll help us put content out faster and more efficiently, but it can't replace the heart behind content, and it shouldn't be used that way, because I think consumers are more savvy too, and I think they can tell for the most part if something is just
Mm-hmm.
simply AI generated.
Mm,
So I don't think you can really fool consumers, at least like in the long run, or if that's not what they expect, you can't, pull the wool over their eyes. So
mm,
I would say be vigilant and use it where it makes sense, but don't use it to replace really what your business or brand is. Just don't make everything AI.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can use components of it, or in the process of creation of content, maybe the early process where customers don't see it directly could be useful, but maybe in the final production, you should be careful with
Mhm.
what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
cool. I also use AI for my consulting side of my day to day, but if you're interested, we can talk about that in the future episode. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave comments. Share your take on how AI is impacting your job or your business industry. And we'll see you again next time.
Bye.
Bye.